I'm Caleb from You Can Make This Too. Thank you for joining me. Today is a bit different. I'm going to be doing a bit of a home renovation project over at my brother's house where we discovered hardwood floors under his carpet. So we're going to lift them up and then refinish the floors. But there's a little bit of a problem we anticipated, and that's because this room, we're pretty sure, used to be split into 2 rooms. So we thought that there might be a gap in the hardwood floor, and turns out there was. So we're also going to talk about how we fix that. But stick with me and I'll show you how you can make this too.
The easiest way to check to see if you have hardwood floor hiding under carpet is to remove an air register and lift up the carpet. There normally aren't any tack strips around the register, so it's really easy to check there without loosening the carpet. Before starting the removal, I prepped the room by removing everything that would be in the way, including the closet doors. And I like to put hinge pins back in the jam side hinge, so that way they don't fall out of the door when you move them and get lost. From pulling up the carpet in the closets, we were hopeful the floor may just need a cleaning and not a full refinish. So instead of moving all of the furniture, we moved everything but the biggest and most awkward pieces and put all them on one side of the room. And then after lifting the carpet on the empty side, we shuffled the furniture and pulled everything up on the other side. Now, the tack strips aren't fun to pull up, but they're actually pretty easy. The trick is to just find the nails that hold them into the floor and get your pry bar right under them. If you try to lift between the nails, then the tack strip is just going to shatter, and you're going to end up pulling a lot of nails and have just splinters everywhere. Now, discovering a big patch of vinyl flooring in the middle of the room kind of dashed our hopes of not having to do a full refinish. It looked like at some point when the room was still 2 rooms, someone made an entryway to the kitchen by building a half wall and putting vinyl down in that middle walkway. Then later someone else probably knocked down the walls and tried to remove the vinyl, gave up on it because it's really tough, and decided to just lay down carpet. So now we're the suckers trying to remove this stuff. It wasn't easy. There's really no fun part of removing carpet. If you've done it before, let me know which part you like the least. But once everything was removed, including the crazy vinyl, we screened off the room to minimize how far dust would travel, and instead of emptying the closet shelves, we just shielded them with some plastic too. We were right about expecting a gap in the flooring where that wall had been. I patched it by using some matching red oak and cutting a spot out of the floor to match the new boards. I used the boards to mark my lines, and I also used them as a straight edge to guide my cut. Some brad nails held the boards in place and were easy to pull out before installing them. A little bit of wood putty filled the gaps, and brad nails held it in place. There were some holes in the middle of the floor from where electrical had been ran into what we think was probably a half wall. So to patch those, we used some similar sized oak dowel to the holes with some 5-minute epoxy to set them in place. And once the epoxy set, I used a flush cut trim saw to trim them down, and then the sander is going to flush them up perfectly later. Speaking of, sanding is what we did next. We rented a drum sander and edger from Home Depot, and they made pretty quick work of the floors. We used a 36 grit drum first to remove the bulk of the old finish, then 2 passes with 80 grit to get the last of it, and finish everything off with 120, and then we used the edger to get up close to the walls where the drum sander couldn't reach. Next was lots and lots of cleaning. We swept at least 5 times, vacuumed, and used dust mops to get up as much dust as possible before laying down the finish. And it's also a good idea to wait a few minutes between each cleaning to literally let the dust settle. And don't forget to dust yourself off first, else you're just going to be scattering dust from your clothes everywhere as you move around. Finally, we got to the most fun part, laying down that first coat of oil. We used an oil-based floor poly with a wool applicator, and I'll have links to everything below. The nice thing is if you stay after it with this finish, you can actually lay both coats without having to sand in between. But if you want the best finish, it's still a good idea to go ahead and let everything dry and give it a light sanding between coats. Unfortunately, I had to head home before we sanded and got the second coat of finish down, but you can already see the transformation this room had by removing the carpet and how well the wall patch blends into the floor. The only thing left is to replace the baseboards and set the room back up. So I'll probably be building some furniture for this room later, so if you want to catch that, make sure to subscribe. And if you enjoyed this, please don't forget that like button and share this with a friend. Thanks. Catch you next time.